For nearly 50 years, the United States, Israel, and Iran maintained a standoff defined by proxy militias and covert sabotage. In late February 2026, that relationship shifted into an overt, kinetic conflict. Previous attempts to freeze Tehran's regional influence had stalled. Operation Midnight Hammer in June 2025 and subsequent high-level negotiations in Geneva failed to halt the development of the Iranian nuclear program or its support for regional militant groups. The theater of war shifted when American and Israeli forces bypassed border proxies to strike the Iranian capital. This was a direct, large-scale aerial assault on the heart of the regime in Tehran. The mission specifically targeted the highest tier of the Iranian government. Within hours, intelligence sources confirmed the deaths of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the head of the Revolutionary Guard, and the defense minister. Removing the top leadership was designed to end the threat of a nuclear-armed Iran once and for all, but instead of silence, the strikes triggered an immediate multi-front response. The decision to launch the mission, titled Operation Epic Fury, followed reports that Iran was moving to launch its own preemptive strikes. Intelligence suggested the regime was also on the verge of a nuclear breakthrough. By February 2026, Tehran stockpiled 450 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium. A sharp climb indicates they were 1 week from 90% weapons-grade capacity. To prevent this, U.S. Tomahawk missiles suppressed air defenses, allowing 200 Israeli jets to simultaneously strike 500 targets. The broader gamble for Washington and Jerusalem is that the sudden removal of the ruling class will act as a catalyst for internal change. They are betting that the Iranian public, or exiled figures, can step into the vacuum to establish a secular government. This plan relies on the assumption that the security apparatus will fracture and the regime will quietly fold. That assumption was tested within minutes of the first explosions. Iran's response was immediate and multi-directional. Hundreds of ballistic missiles and drones were launched from mobile platforms, targeting American and allied interests across the region. The counterstrikes hit targets in Israel, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and Jordan. For the first time, missiles reached the heart of Tel Aviv and Abu Dhabi, causing civilian casualties on both sides of the Gulf. American naval assets were specifically targeted. In Bahrain, the government began emergency evacuations of the Jufair area after missiles aimed at the headquarters of the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet. What began as a mission to decapitate a single government rapidly evolved into a regional exchange of heavy munitions, drawing neighboring states into the direct line of fire. While the war rooms tracked missile trajectories, the humanitarian impact was most visible in Lebanon, where the regional escalation triggered a secondary crisis. In just 2 weeks, the Lebanese government reported 850 people killed and over 2,100 injured. An estimated 1.3 million people have been directly affected by the expanding theater of combat. The sheer number of displaced people has overwhelmed local resources. Over 620 collective government shelters are currently active, with many in Beirut and Mount Lebanon reporting full capacity. This has led to a mass exodus toward the border. According to the latest tracking data, more than 113,000 Syrians and 12,000 Lebanese have already crossed into Syria to seek safety from the airstrikes. While military officials calculate the tactical success of the mission, the humanitarian reports show the resulting movement of over 1 million people across the region. The shift from proxy skirmishes to overt state-on-state combat has altered the security landscape of the Middle East. The long-standing rules of engagement that govern the region for decades have been replaced by a period of high-intensity conflict. The reaction to the news is deeply divided. While the Iranian diaspora celebrated the deaths of the regime leadership in London and Los Angeles, the U.S. FBI and Homeland Security placed counterterrorism teams on elevated alert to guard against potential domestic retaliation. In New York, the United Nations Security Council convened an emergency meeting to address the crisis. Diplomats are now attempting to broker a cessation of hostilities before the ballistic exchange widens even further. Tactically, the joint U.S. and Israeli operation achieved its goal. The senior leadership that dictated Iran's regional policy is gone, and its nuclear infrastructure is heavily damaged. However, the long-term result of the strike is still in motion. The ultimate outcome will depend on whether a new government can emerge from the ruins, or if the region will be consumed by the vacuum left behind.